Hello, and welcome to In the Garden with Flower Hill Farm, a podcast brought to you by Botanical Interests. I'm your host, Nicole Pitt. Today's episode, it's pretty special. It's the very first episode of Season 2, and we will be joined by someone many of you already feel like you know, even if you've never met him. Kevin Espiritu is the founder of Epic Gardening, one of the most trusted and approachable voices in modern gardening. What started as a simple desire to grow better plants turned into a global community helping millions of people grow food, confidence, and curiosity. Whether you're growing in your backyard, a balcony, or a single pot, I hope you'll find this episode full of wisdom, perspective, and practical advice. Today, I am inspired by a February thaw. We are approaching mid-February, and the long-range map just came out. They're calling for some milder temperatures for at least a few days. And I can tell you that we have not seen one day above freezing for a couple of weeks now. For me, a thaw means a few days above freezing, and that's in the mid-30s Fahrenheit. This will allow me to at least break out a hose and finally water the plants that are overwintering in the hoop house. They will be very grateful for the drink. These winter thaws are always a tease. They're always teasing warmer days ahead, which is always something a gardener daydreams about, at least in February. This week, I was chatting with my friend Lila, who lives down in North Carolina. She was hit with a solid 11 inches of snow, the worst storm they've seen in a long time. And she was telling me how she just wanted a few days in the 60s. I laughed and said, 60s? When my head hits the pillow at night, I'm dreaming of a 7-day forecast with a few 40s on it. It just goes to show you everyone is experiencing winter differently, and it's all about perspective. For her, 40s is pretty cold, and for me, 40s, it's a heat wave. So I want to know, what is inspiring you in the garden? I'd love to hear. Send me your video clips, and you might be featured right here on this podcast. If we choose your submission, I'll send you a gift as a token of my appreciation. Email me your inspiration clips to nicole@botanicalinterests.com. So, mid-February, seed starting is starting to ramp up. This week, I am starting annual phlox, which brings me to our seed of the day. It's cherry caramel phlox. Annual phlox grows much differently than the perennial variety. It's also tolerant of cooler temperatures. So in my climate, I can plant out the seedlings about a month before my last frost. I've had it be totally unaffected in temperatures down to 23 degrees Fahrenheit. It's a gorgeous bedding plant, but it also dances in bouquets. And the more you pinch the plant, the longer the stems will grow. I typically pinch mine back 2 or 3 times, which is really just as simple as taking off the flower heads before I have stems that are long enough for my wrappers. Unlike the perennial variety, these phlox tend to be deer resistant, which is always a plus. Annual phlox is native to Texas, but became popular in the UK when seeds were sent across the pond in the mid-1800s. People often confuse phlox with Dame's rocket, the wild plant that grows in tree lines. But I have a pretty easy way to remember the difference. Phlox, with 5 letters in its name, has 5 petals, and Dame's rocket, D-A-M-E, only has 4 letters. It also only has 4 petals. So that's an easy way to tell them apart. The seeds prefer to germinate in the dark. I usually plant them in soil blocks and then cover with vermiculite. Coming up, we will check in with Kevin from Epic Gardening, so stay with us. Welcome back to In the Garden with Flower Hill Farm. Today, we are chatting with Kevin from Epic Gardening and also Botanical Interests, one of the most trusted voices in gardening today. Kevin, I'm so excited. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Hey, it's cool to be on the show. It's a fun moment for us.
I love this collaboration. I've always loved Epic Gardening, obviously. And then when you took over Botanical Interests, it really was just like a marriage made in heaven in the gardening world. Now, I'd love to talk to you not only about how to curate success in the garden, but also the process of creating successful content around gardening. You seem to have found the recipe for success. Now, take us back to the early days of Epic.
Man, the early days at this point, if it's 2026, I mean, if you really are getting technical, it would be 2013.
Yeah.
Is when I started, I registered the domain, because Epic at the beginning was actually called Xponics. it was a hydroponic gardening
Yeah.
blog. And then I think maybe sometime that year I was like, this is a terrible name. And I changed it to Epic Gardening just because I wanted something, I don't know, a little more fun. And yeah, I mean, that was the early days. It was blogging back then. I mean, the YouTube channel, I think technically also existed, but you can even go back and look at some of those videos. I'm quite literally screen recording my computer, reading a blog post because I thought I wanted to get on YouTube to get people to read the blog, which is like such a backwards way of thinking in today's world. But back then, to be honest, it kind of worked. And so, anyways, that the origin stories are quite modest. A $10 domain.
Yeah, that's interesting because one of my questions was, so I have a background in television. So when I started farming and gardening at a commercial level, it was very natural for me to grab a camera and just tell stories because that's what I've been doing for so long in my career. But for you, when you started the YouTube, you didn't have any of that prior on camera. So you just kind of explained it. It was turning the blog into a video to get that audience to connect. And it really did. What do you think it was about the early days of Epic that connected with the audience?
I think the best way I could describe it is that I didn't come from gardening. So I didn't grow up gardening. I got into it in my early 20s. And I've always been one to kind of autodidactically learn something and then break it down and distill it. Even as a kid, like when I was 12 and 13, I was, on like angelfire.com starting blogs on how to draw or whatever. So it's just kind of always been in my DNA. So my best guess is sort of the plain explanatory language that we might use at Epic. And just, my tank just went on, my terrarium just went on. Check that out.
Nice.
There's gonna be some rare frogs coming into that pretty soon. But anyways, that's a story for another time. I think it's really just explaining it in plain English for people and using a lot of like analogies, and then trying, of course, whatever format you're putting content out in, you have to play to the sort of best practices of that format, of course, as you probably know from television.
Yeah, yeah. Now, what was the moment when you realized that this was more than a hobby for you?
I mean, I always had thoughts that it might be, but
Yeah.
it would not be until the summer of 2016 when I took the leap to stop making it come in other ways and go full time on Epic Gardening. But to be honest, even then it was a pretty big jump because I think that year I would have earned well under minimum wage from Epic Gardening. And just, I kind of believed that I could get it to at least pay the bills at that time. And to be honest, back then, I remember thinking, if I could make a couple grand a month from this thing, which would be literally 24 grand a year, which is not a whole lot to live off of, especially in San Diego, then I'll be fine. And that was a bit naive, but of course, like gave me the strength to kind of push into it. And that's where I started to see potentially that there was more here, because not only did we hit that goal by, I don't know, a couple months into going on Epic full time, but it kept growing. And so I was like, you know what? I think there's something here. And of course, over the years, that has just really accelerated.
Yeah. Let's talk about gardening.
Yeah.
This is a gardening podcast. Now, talk about something that you got very wrong when you first started gardening that taught you a lesson that you still look back at today.
So there's a couple things that come to mind. One of the biggest annoying things that happened is when I first started soil gardening, because I was hydroponics, like I mentioned at most of the start of my journey. I had these raised beds. They were our Epic raised beds, actually, many years before they became that. And it was my old house, which, to be honest, is now demolished. I realized 4 or 5 months ago. The house itself is gone, which is crazy because I always thought I could go back and look like this is where it all began. Now I can't. It's going to be like an apartment complex or something.
Wow.
But anyways, I had 4 of these raised beds, and I was like, you know what? That's a lot of bags. So I'm going to buy bulk soil. So I bought, I think I just bought either topsoil or topsoil plus compost. It might have been topsoil plus compost. I had it delivered to the house. I should have known. I mean, knowing now, it was like very sort of light clay in its color. I should have known that wasn't going to work. But I had about a decent spring garden that year from that. And then after that, nothing grew in it. Absolutely nothing, because it was just more or less fully compacted clay. So what I had to do is dig out the whole front yard garden and chop in and amend that soil heavily. And it never really got to the quality I wanted. And so a soil mistake early on was a pretty big one. And then I think anyone starting. Like Jacques on our team was the same way. It was just like synthetics, like
Yeah.
you would grow in containers or in raised beds, and you'd be putting the little pellets on there. And, effectively, you're sort of hydroponic gardening in that way, because the soil's not really holding a lot of the nutrition in that sense. It's almost like growing in coconut coir and like putting in synthetic fertilizer in a hydroponic system. It's like almost like that. So moving more towards an organic approach over the years helped a lot. But it did take a couple years to kind of get that shift to make sense to me.
Mm. What is the most beginner-friendly plant that would give people confidence if they're just starting out?
Yeah, I used to say, grow the easiest thing and then you get a win, and that would be like a radish or something like that, which is definitely true. Like you can grow a radish and you'll be like, oh my God, I grow a radish, and you can pluck it out, and there's a satisfaction there. 13, 14 years deep in gardening, I'm not as satisfied when I pull the radish out of the ground. It doesn't have the same, magic. But these days, I would say whatever plant would get someone the most excited for themselves. So, like, I know someone who really only cares about growing pineapples, and it's like, okay, well, the radish suggestion is really not going to do much for you then, So to me, it's like if you want to go easy veg, I would say any root crop. Tomatoes really not that challenging, especially if you buy like a seedling, start from the nursery, maybe even go to like a big box and buy like a more fully grown out one. If I'm thinking like getting the win, I wouldn't recommend someone do that as their gardening journey develops. Like it's way more fun to me to start the seed that you want and nurture it and plant it the way you want. But I sometimes forget like what I didn't know when I started. And to be honest, just growing a tomato from a store-bought plant would have been a win for me back then. So it's like, okay, maybe that is the way. Because what you want to do is you want to get people in and having a successful first season, so they have a successful second, so they have a successful third. And what you find, I don't know if this is the same for you and the people you've helped, is like you find that they naturally will come to the conclusion of some sort of like organic or beyond organic soil-based approach that's like low spray. They eventually get there. It just depends how they,
Yeah, it's difficult in the, like, I'm doing the farming on a much larger scale. So bringing in those, like, I'm getting dump trailers full of compost and stuff. So I'm not going and buying small bags. And it gets quite expensive. But I have found, I think, a nice formula that always feeds my soil and really makes it healthier every time I add to it.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, and as time goes on, I mean, my homestead, we've now gardened in for 5 full seasons. That soil there is amazing now.
Wow.
And it was effectively construction fill dirt that was very weed filled when we first moved in, I first moved in there, So yeah, it just takes time.
I'm in the process. So I have about a fifth of an acre with an 8-foot deer fence because I live in the middle of upstate New York, nowhere there's fields and there's just deer everywhere. So probably 2020, actually during COVID, I put up this fence and then I started gardening just in the soil. And then 2 years ago, I said, okay, I'm going to take this and do it Kevin style. I'm going to put all raised beds in here. And I think I have about 60.
Oh my God.
60 raised beds. Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
Are they our beds?
They are 90% Epic Gardening Birdie beds. Yes. I've experimented with a couple of the other shapes. Yeah. Well, here's the thing. Only about 40 of them are put together. I still have 20 of them in my shed in the boxes still that I have to build. So I am because I'm only one person, I don't have a large team. It's so time consuming to run my flower farm, all the social media stuff. And then I own a garden center. So between all that stuff, I only have about 4 or 5 hours a week that I get to work in my own personal garden.
That's a lot.
Yeah. So I am so excited. What is the best thing to fill it with then? So I've gotten some, I've watched all your videos. I've got some dead logs and some broken down sticks in the bottom of the tall beds, like the birdie tall beds. But should I be putting compost and just let it sit a year and let it decompose, or what's the best mix?
Well, I mean, you have so many beds, the strategy really changes for you, What I would say if, I was just talking to a friend who she just ordered 2 8x4 of our beds and they're the 30-inch tall. So that's like standard home gardener backyard. And she's committed to gardening and she kind of wants to give it her all. So I was like, okay, well, what you would do then is if you want to save money on soil, you don't have to. Just throw like logs. You could even order firewood. Like it's cheaper
Yeah.
than the soil. Just put logs or debris in the bottom 50. The thing we've kind of evolved to, we used to say bottom 50 is like logs and sticks and other
Mhm.
organics. And then top 50 is potting soil or good potting mix or raised bed mix.
Yeah.
These days, we actually go a little further. We'll say bottom 50 or 60 can be that log material. Um, Whatever the remainder is besides 10%, save 10%, that could be like a raised bed fill mix. It doesn't have to be like crazy high quality. Then the top maybe 6 inches, we do say go with the highest quality, like organic, mix that you can find. These days for us, that's either Fox Farm Happy Forest or Happy Frog or Fox Farm Ocean Forest, whichever one. Um, because of course, especially in a vegetable garden, and you know more about me than flowers. That top six is where most of the
Yeah.
action's happening. And so what you're basically doing is you're creating like a tiered quality level and even in particle size of organic matter. And eventually it'll sort of break
Hmm.
down and make its way up. We dug up one of our beds that we had done this to a couple years ago. And we saw that the logs, I would say about a quarter an inch of the log material was starting to get spongy and soft, even after a couple of years.
Wow.
So it was becoming a bit of a buffer, and some organic matter was breaking down. But even, I mean, that was a couple of years, you know.
Yeah.
So in your case, I for 40 beds, like I'd find if you could have someone like or if you could call arborists and say, hey, can you dump a couple loads of like literally I'll take all the trunks as well.
Yeah.
That's probably the most economical way because you just have so many beds.
What did I ended up doing for the first 20 or so is my local village gives away wood chips for free. You just have to have a way to haul it. So they're not tiny wood chips, they're large wood chips. So that's what I did for the bottom 50% of a lot of them. But then I ran out of wood chips and then I bought more beds. So it's a
Yeah, yeah.
never ending cycle. Eventually I'll run out of space inside this fifth of an acre. But yeah, I still have a lot more room.
I'm so curious to see the layout. Now you'll have to send me some photos because I'm trying to a fifth of an acre. My property is a third, and I have 18 beds in the front yard. I mean, I could see how you could fit 60, but it must be quite an impressive site.
And some of them are the small rounds. So I do a lot of small round and then long. I don't know. I'm playing with patterns. And then only the one half of it, I have the beds. The other half, I'm turning it into an orchard. So I have about
Oh,
20 fruit trees in there as well. I don't know. It's always evolving. I'll come out on a video and I'll say, this is what I'm doing. And then 3 weeks later, I'll be like, just kidding. I'm doing this
well, it always
now.
changes. The garden always changes. Like we've got we had this one spot in our backyard or in the backyard that it's been a corn maze, it's been a cover crop, it's been a dahlia farm, and it's
Wow.
been a test garden. It just kind of switches over time.
Yes. So you said you have 18 of them?
I think I have 18 raised
Wow.
beds in the yard. Yeah, I think it's
Wow.
18 now. Yeah, and then the whole back garden is besides an asparagus bed, which is in a tall or a 8x4 bed, is that's all in ground.
Okay. I actually just planted a full birdie 8x4 bed with asparagus crowns. How many did you put in your 8x4?
Let me think. I think I put 4 on each side, so I think every 2 feet I have one or so, something like that. How many did you put? 20
Okay.
more?
25. I did one
25. I
every
might I
12
might have
inches.
12. I might have 12. I
Okay.
have to check though, because it's been. I mean, how many years has it been for you?
I just did it
Oh, you
in
just did it. Okay.
October. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I bought 3-year-old crowns. So they were a nice size. And the instructions told me I could plant as close as 12 inches. So we'll
Yeah, I
see.
mean, you know what's crazy is what we did is we didn't go the crown route. We actually bought asparagus seedlings, which you
Oh,
almost never
wow.
hear. You almost never
No.
hear people do, but it works. And then you can also even grow it from seed, but it's just a little bit longer. But the seedlings
Mhm.
worked pretty well. It was surprising. I think it probably took a little longer to get established because it had to basically form the crown the first year. But
Yeah.
now we're in year 3 or 4, and man, the crazy part about them though is if you don't get them right away when they start coming up in the winter spring, like you will miss it.
Yeah. They turn into trees.
Yeah, yeah. And like for me, I saw them going, and I was like, "Oh, I got to make some." I want to film this because we've done an asparagus grow series, and then like
Yeah.
I forgot, and then next week they were all ferns. I was like,
Yeah. They really do. And I like to pick the ones that are in the in-between size, not the ones that are too spindly and not the ones that are like a nickel thick. I try to get them in between, but it's hard. You got to go out every day and check. Otherwise,
It's
they're
an
2 feet
everyday
tall.
thing. Yeah, they grow
Yeah.
so fast. It's crazy.
Yes. So what is a lazy gardener tip that you have that actually works?
A lazy gardener tip. Well, one that we just tried. We've done it multiple times now. It works really well. Is that Ruth Stout potato method? If you've heard of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that one, we tested 8 different ways of growing potatoes last season, and then this one dominated. And it's
Okay.
basically drop a seed potato on the ground, cover it with 8 inches of straw, forget. That's pretty much
Wow.
it. And
Okay.
so the only trick is that you want to do it with a determinate potato or one that's going to produce mostly in one layer.
Hmm.
Because some people will hill their potatoes. You don't want to choose a variety that's like that. So like a red Norland potato works really well. We did that. I'll see if I can dig a picture up. Maybe we'll put it on the video. But the cluster of potatoes that showed up 90 days later was insane. Like truly crazy. And there's almost no work because you almost don't even have to water it, especially if you get some rains, because that mulch
Yeah.
layer holds so much. So that's like the laziest thing I've ever seen. I mean, another lazy one is, I think Meg Grows Plants coined the term, but chaos gardening. And so
Yeah.
just running around and just throwing stuff places works pretty well. We did that. We just released the Botanical Interest seed shakers last year. It's our sort
Yeah.
of new entrant, and they're like called the Hummingbird Haven. I think I took
Yes.
and just shook it in one area. And right now, if I go down to the homestead, it'll be absolutely cranking. So these sorts of things are nice. I like since I'm not as much a flower person, I like where I can just shake and flowers appear. I like that.
Yeah, I've seen some really cool videos. I think Kara Jameson did a whole zinnia row and it was blooming beautifully from one of those shakers. It was awesome. I have a couple of them. I will definitely be using them.
They're great.
Well, my season's a little different. So I'm in upstate New York, zone 4B. I don't get my last frost is kind of around Memorial Day. And I only have about 110-day season. So we have to, everything has to go on the ground kind of at once for us.
Yeah. I mean, 110 days is like, what, 14 weeks or so?
Yeah, it's basically I can grow a small pumpkin. But
does that mean that like your seed's starting very aggressively and like potting up and babying so that the second they're in the ground, they're like way ahead?
Yes, I try to do that. I do that for my customers as well, because I think it was this past year, people start coming to the garden center around the 1st of May because, you're feeling like it's spring, but we'll still go into the 20s at night. So it's not safe to plant out your tomatoes or your peppers, but people do it anyway. And then they'll come back 2 weeks later and have to buy more because we had a frost. But I try to get the seedlings. I don't want it to be too big because I don't want them to have trouble adjusting to their gardens. But I start my seeds like I have some started now. I won't start tomatoes and peppers until March for my customers. But really, it's not safe to plant out until the 1st of June here. And that's a frustrating fact for some people. There are people that will put, little homes over top to protect it from the cold and use a lot of sheets. But that's so much work. It really is, especially if you're doing it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like, I think the smaller the garden, the more you can do these more intensive measures. Obviously at your scale, like doing that, it's almost like I'd rather just grow twice as many plants and get a little less yield off all of them and just not worry about the protection. Yeah, that makes sense.
Well, and that's one of the reasons why I have to have so many beds is because I do own the garden center. When I have a whole tray of Cherokee purple tomatoes left, I bring them home and they have to have a place to go. So
how is it owning a garden center? Like, when did that start for you? And like, how have you enjoyed that?
I purchased the garden center in 2022. So it would be August 2022 that we took it over. And I had never grown inside of a greenhouse before, other than a small 8x10 at the house. It was very daunting, but I found that the community of other garden center owners within an hour or two were very open and they helped me. I had a mentor that was retiring about 15 miles away that was able to let me know where to buy, where to get your hanging baskets, where to get your 6-pack material, all that stuff. Because that was the overwhelming part. Because in gardening, you're always thinking kind of 2 seasons ahead. right now I'm buying stuff for fall, and the stuff for spring that's coming in a few weeks for my hanging baskets, I ordered that back in July. All of those things, I had no idea.
Mm-hmm.
But I love it because one of the reasons that I bought the garden center was because my YouTube channel was getting big enough and my address was public. People started just showing up to my house and they
Yeah, it's
wanted
happened to me as well.
Yeah. So it was very overwhelming. I had younger kids at the time. My kids are older now, but it was scary, to be honest. And I wanted to provide an outlet for people to come and interact, and people wanted to buy stuff. So I wanted to give them the opportunity to buy things. And so it's been overwhelming, a lot more work than I thought it was going to be. But overall, it's been a really amazing experience. And that interaction with my customers is what I really missed from my TV days. I was a reporter. I was out on the streets. I was talking to people. I was listening to their stories. And that's filling that void after leaving that life. So I love the day-to-day interactions with my customers. And we're expanding. We were just awarded a $385,000 grant from New York State to rebuild our retail shop. And
cool.
We're going to put in a botanical garden, like all around I have a 30 by 100 Rimmel greenhouse. That's kind of the centerpiece. And we're going to build a botanical garden with sidewalks all the way around it.
Dang.
And put in a small cafe. Cool. It's a little overwhelming. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's still just me. And I have 2 part-time girls, both named Ashley. It's kind of a requirement. If you want to work with me, change your name to Ashley.
All right, I'm changing my name. Let's go.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So it's been really fun. I've been able to meet a lot of people and make a lot of friends. And yeah, it's nothing like taking on an entire seed company. How's that been?
Well, I mean, it's different, right? I mean, we have, I would say when we first took on Botanical, learning curve was insane. Because, at the time we had just raised some funding in order to do this. And I, like you, I mean, I was a YouTuber, podcaster, gardener type person. And I'd started selling some products, the raised beds specifically, and some of our trays. But even before Botanical, which was the tail end of 22, the team size had grown a lot. And so, of course, you're learning, just like, when you're gardening, it's one set of skills. If you're communicating about gardening, it's another set of skills. If now you're managing, it's a different set of skills. And that just happened really fast. And so when Botanical came along, we had to learn, much like yourself, when you're talking about ordering timelines and stuff. I mean, we're planning for seed varieties out until 2028 right now. And we already know, by the way, what's coming out next year in 2027. Like, we're finishing up our artwork for it. We're designing our packets. If you're a member of our greenhouse program, which we just launched, you will get some of those packets early. You'll get them this summer before anyone else. But it's a whole different thing. But the only thing I'll say is, we have a great team, though. So, when we first started running Botanical, Judy and Curtis were still helping us out. They're the founders. And we slowly they wanted to retire. So we slowly kind of replaced the roles, and it just took a while to get used to that. But now we have great management. We have great sort of structures in place, and always learning, though. I mean, there's always something, because it's just such a big undertaking.
Yeah, it's incredible. And I, this past week, forgot to order some very important things for the greenhouse. And now I'm scrambling and a lot of the greenhouse stuff you order in as plugs, because there's just not enough space to grow everything from seed. Well, I forgot to order Gerber daisies, and those are a huge seller. So now I'm scrambling. I just ordered seeds for Gerber daisies, and I'm going to try to grow them from seed. I've never done it before, but I'll try. But yeah, it's really hard to, checks and balances when you're just one person.
Yeah, you start learning really quickly that everything in business is run by systems and processes. You can go overboard with it, but that's really it. And it does, when you get from gardening to farming, as I'm sure you might agree, is again, the systems is what helps you get there. But if you're a gardener, sort of a more artistic type person, it can be hard to get your head around that way of thinking. It's a different way of thinking, but it unlocks you to be able to do more.
Yeah. Fortunately, my husband's really good at logistics, and that's what he does. He works for a large manufacturing company. I think he's title is like scheduler or something. So he just makes sure that everything is running smoothly. And thankfully, he works for free for me.
Yeah.
I take advantage of his knowledge. And he's also kind of my laborer with the tractor and all that stuff. So I say that I'm a one man band, but really I have an orchestra behind me. They're just not on the payroll.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yes. So was taking on Botanical something that you saw coming? Was that something that was, writing on the wall, or was that, hey, here it is, let's jump in?
It was definitely a bit of both, because we had been looking for a while. So like we had proven that educating the audience and providing good product was a winning combination, and the question is, okay, well then what else can we provide? And a very obvious category would be seed, because of course that's like the genesis of a gardener. It's how you start every single season. And the question is like, okay, well, do you start something? Do you acquire, there's a whole sort of business logic behind that. And in our case, I think we had looked at maybe 100 different opportunities. We looked at nurseries, we looked at, tool companies, this sort of thing. And to me, what it came down to is seed is just the heart of gardening. That's where we want to be. And also I had grown Botanical for many, many years, and I didn't even know that they were open to selling the business until we asked, and they said, actually, we've been trying for a bit now, and we just want to retire. They've been running it for 29 years at that point. So like we want to retire and move on to our next projects in life, or just retirement in general. And so, it was kind of a pop-up opportunity, and we quickly threw our hat in the ring. And I think there were like 5 or 6 other companies or bidders trying to win the business, and they picked us. So we got kind of lucky there.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's beautiful. I actually have some ideas for some seeds.
Okay, yeah, no, we're always open for that. Always open.
I just know how the cut flower field is just growing leaps and bounds. So people are always looking for sources for like Lysianthus and some other specialty cut flowers that I think would do really well under the Botanical line, especially with that artwork. It draws you in. And I saw that you have some artwork on the seed packets.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Yeah. So last summer, I started getting into art. I started teaching myself how to draw, just to kind of like have a hobby that, gardening was once my hobby. Now it's not so much a hobby anymore, which you find in every single person who turns their hobby into a business. So I was like, okay, well, I need another hobby now that's a real hobby. And so I got into drawing, and then I asked Kelly on our art team, hey, would it ever be possible to do art? But I am the CEO and founder, so I could just do it if I wanted to. So I said, It's up to you to ask me. I'll post my art in our little Slack channel here and there. If you think I'm ever at the level where you think I could actually do a piece, I want you to let me know. But I'm not going to tell you I'm not going to force it.
Right.
So she came to me last December and said, hey, we've got a couple commissions open. I think you could tackle the Toi Choi, Bok Choy. And so I did it, and I wouldn't say, it's not the best artwork compared to everyone else who does artwork for us, but it's like, I told her, like, if you don't think this is good enough, just don't put it on the package. She's like, no, there's a couple things we want to adjust, like coloration, et cetera, because I'm partially colorblind. But she's like, I would 100% put this on a packet. I'm like, okay, let's go then. And so there'll be one packet from me out there in the world, I think, next season.
That's awesome. I'll definitely be getting my hands on some of that. Actually, so at my garden center, we offer Botanical. I just ordered the whole seed starting display. So we'll have that up in the shop. And I ordered another display too. Oh, the sprouts display. I'm so excited about that, because I think that not enough people are into growing their own sprouts, and they don't understand how amazing it is. So I'm going to have that set up at the shop as well. And then I have one of the huge, not the spinning one, but just the wall one. I think it holds like 100 and something packets. So we're filling that with the Northeast Regional, all those seeds that grow well for my customers there.
That's great.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it. My son is, he's going to be 16 soon, and I keep telling him he should go to school for business and then come over and work for mom and run my shipping department, because we started shipping things all over the country.
Does he work on the business at all, or?
No, Kevin, my son's allergic to the fungus that grows on soil and he's allergic to plant material.
Like for real?
For real, like he
Oh,
can't carry a
wow.
mum, his whole arms break out, but he could ship, you know what I mean? He could do we're building a warehouse here at the farm in the springtime, and I ship plant products. It's all plant products like tulip bulbs and dahlia
Got to
tubers.
Put them in a little bubble and have
Yes.
them do your invoicing or something.
Yes, and my daughter,
on the job is a great way to learn business.
100%. My daughter has an anaphylactic level allergy to grass. It's ridiculous.
I think Mother Nature is trying to tell you this might not be the career for you. That's crazy. I've never heard of that before.
We hadn't either. And her doctor, she literally has a prescription for an EpiPen for her grass allergy. But he said that unless she's outside while someone's cutting grass and blades go in the back of her throat, she should be okay. But she's done like the whistle thing with the grass blades before, and she's been fine. But that's how she tested. So out of an abundance of caution, she has an EpiPen for grass. Oh.
Yeah.
But
it's
wild.
There's a position for them. It's just not out in the field.
Exactly. Okay. I have some rapid fire questions. Are you ready?
Yeah. Hit me.
Okay. Favorite plant you'll never stop growing?
Potatoes.
Potatoes. A plant you refuse to grow again?
Oh my God. Cucamelons.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Why is that?
I just think there's no point to them. I don't get them.
You don't like them?
I don't like them.
I don't like them either, but I still grow them every year because my father-in-law likes them and they look pretty on the trellis.
That's valid.
Yeah. So I will harvest them and I will bring them to him. So morning garden walk or evening?
Ooh, probably evening, honestly. I like that dusk hour a little bit better.
Nice. What's bringing you the most joy in your garden right now?
I would say the experiments we're running right now. I'm excited to see the results of. Yeah.
Cool. What experiment are you most excited about?
We're going to set one up. We haven't set this one up yet. We might do it today.
Okay.
We're going to try every method that's popular, at least, of trellising tomatoes, and then every method of pruning them, and just see if one is better. And just find out, like we've tried a couple years in a row to do a single versus double versus nothing pruning technique for tomatoes, like single leader versus double leader. Mm-hmm. We just got killed by disease, so we couldn't do it last year. Yeah. So we'll see. But I'm very curious because a lot of times when we've done these experiments, we'll test like more extreme preparations in the garden versus like kind of the bare bones. Almost every time the bare bones technique wins, especially when you consider effort. Like you were mentioning earlier in the episode with like putting frost on your whole garden. It's like, okay, it's not really worth the effort, So yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Cool. So we have the Northwest Flower and Garden Festival coming up. Mm-hmm. And for those who have never attended, tell people what they can expect to see when they go there.
Northwest Flower Garden Show, I think, is the second biggest garden show in the country, but in my mind, it's the biggest one for most gardeners because there's the Philly Flower Show, but there's a lot of like more artistic displays there than the Northwest Flower Garden Show is more like for gardeners by gardeners type thing.
Yeah.
So you'll see, we'll be there for sure, and you'll see a lot of awesome companies that you guys have probably used or wanted to use. There's really cool vendors there, food included as well. You're in Seattle, so there's plenty of stuff to do, like from a gardener's perspective, just around the city. Of course, you can do the Seattle tourist stuff as well. And then there's like a stage there where there's events held throughout the entire show. I don't know if will you be on stage at any point?
Yes.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Are you doing one of the container wars?
No, I'm supposed to be on the main stage Sunday at 2:00 doing a live podcast episode.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
So last year Jacques did Container Wars, which is like going 1v1 against someone else building a garden container, and then everyone votes on who won. I'm pretty sure this year I'm going 1 versus 1 against Jacques.
Whoa.
So that's like two guys who really have no business designing container gardens, like on themselves. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes.
They're mostly flower related too, right?
That's the thing. It's like you couldn't
annuals.
design a thing that we have less like innate experience in, but maybe it'll be funny.
I guarantee you it will be one of the more entertaining ones, I'm sure. I can't wait. So I've never been. I'm coming out on Thursday and I'm staying the whole weekend. So
Okay.
I'll get to see all the container wars.
Yeah, no, that'll be great. That'll be a lot of fun.
Cool. All right, we're going to take a quick break and come back with one more question for Kevin. Kevin, thank you so much for being here and for the work you do, because it really does change how people see themselves as gardeners. If you're listening and thinking, okay, maybe I can do this, that's not an accident. That's the epic gardening effect. One final question for Kevin. Kevin, what inspires you in the garden?
Right now, I'm getting a lot out of just harvesting and cooking. Harvest, cook, eat. I'm focusing a lot on my health lately. I've had some struggles lately. So that's really the main thing is like, I used to grow a lot for weirdness or the science of it. Then I grew, of course, to educate. And these days I'm growing to harvest and eat, which is like maybe the more pure way to do it, you could say, is why, a lot of people come to the garden. So that's what's bringing me the most right now.
So what are you harvesting right now? Because I have 3 feet of snow on the ground. I'd love to hear.
Well, we just pulled some, what was it? It was kale, lemons, oranges, and celery out of the garden. And then I have a chef that I work with to prepare some meals like specific to some of the health things that I'm working on.
Yep.
And so we actually had her on our Epic Homesteading channel. And we did like a from the garden stir-fried kind of beef and vegetable little thing. And so we're filming this because I want to kind of I want to bridge the garden to the kitchen this year, like in a little more rigorous way. And so, we're getting started with that. So that's kind of what's going for me right now.
Awesome. Well, we want to hear from you, the listener. Email me your inspiration stories to Nicole at botanicalinterests.com. You can find Kevin over at Epic Gardening across YouTube, Instagram, and his website, where he shares tutorials, experiments, and real-world advice that makes gardening feel accessible instead of intimidating. We'll link everything in the show notes so you can dive in. And if this episode gave you even one idea you're excited to try, or reminded you that gardens don't have to be perfect to be worthwhile, our job here was a success. Thank you, Kevin. And I will see you in Seattle.
I'll see you there soon. Thanks, Nicole.
Okay. Bye. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I'm your host, Nicole Pitt, and you can find more of my garden adventures over on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook at Flower Hill Farm. And of course, all of the seeds and garden goodies we talked about are waiting for you at botanicalinterests.com. Or check your favorite local garden center to see if they carry botanical interests, like we do at the Boone Street Nursery. Save 5% by using the code INTHEGARDEN. Want to see what we're talking about? Subscribe to the Botanical Interests YouTube channel for the video version. We'll see you next time in the garden. I'll meet you there.